Everybody, the time is 7 o'clock and I will now commence this ordinary meeting of Council for Feb 28, 2024 and welcome everyone back for the new year. I open the meeting by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land, the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation. We acknowledge and respect their continuing connection to lands, waters, skies, culture and the contribution they make to the life and spirit of our community. We pay respect to their past and present elders and extend this respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Item 2, present and apologies. We have all councillors in attendance and from an officer perspective, I think we also have all our officers in attendance. Item 3, pecuniary interest and conflict of interest disclosures. So consistent with the Local Government Act, Section 130, councillors and officers must make disclosures of conflict of interest. We have several conflicts listed in the officer section for our CEO, who has declared a conflict of interest in respect to the following 3 items. Item 20.3, item 20.4, item 20.5. And the CEO has declared that he will leave the meeting for the duration of these 3 items. I also wish to declare a conflict of interest against item 20.1. This is the event sponsorship nominations 2023, and I will also be stepping out for deliberation of this item. I call on any other councillors or officers to make a declaration if they have them. No, thank you. Item 4, leave of absence of councillor. There are none. Item 5, public question time. 5.1, public question status update. There are no public questions outstanding, and the 4 questions that we did take on notice in December have been provided responses via email with reference to this in adjunct 5.1. Item 5.2, public questions. I can confirm tonight that we have received 7 questions within the prescribed timeline, so I'll commence at reading those out and inviting those in the gallery who wish to ask their question directly to do so, otherwise I'll read it out on your behalf. So in the first instance, a question from Linda Pettigrove, who I didn't see, so I'll read out her question. A question for Councillor Michael Grout at Borough of Queenscliff ordinary meeting being held on Wednesday, February 28, 2024. The question is, what is the current number of names now on the EV charger petition? This petition was hand-delivered to the Borough of Queenscliff office on the morning of Monday, February 26, addressed to the councillors. I will respond at Councillor Grout's request on behalf of councillors, and that is to note that the petition regarding the relocation of the electric vehicle chargers is presented at item 9.1 in this agenda. The petition was resubmitted to Council on Feb 26 in 2 parts. The original written petition with additional signatures and a copy of a change.org petition. In total, there are now 458 signatures. The petition was originally submitted to Council on November 22, 2023, containing 133 signatures. Of these, 127 signatories are borough residents. Public question number 2 comes from Kelvin Pettigrove, who also doesn't appear to be in the gallery, so I'll proceed to read that out. As a homeowner and resident directly impacted by the installation of EV chargers at 152 Learmont Street, Queenscliff, who have actively participated in presenting a petition for the relocation of these EV chargers to the Feb Council, we are eager to understand the process and timeline of public consultation that led to the installation of these chargers, particularly as those of us most affected were not consulted in the decision-making process. Please provide evidence of Council's engagement, and I'll ask the CEO to respond.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. Given Mr Pettigrove's not with us tonight, I'll take the question on notice and organise a time to meet with Mr Pettigrove.
Public question number 3 comes from David Kenwood.
This question relates to the relocation of large EV chargers and an electrical unit from Learmont Street in Queenscliff. Having lived in Learmont Street for some 38 years, I continue to be impressed with residents' efforts to restore their heritage properties and improve the streetscape. Indeed, Council have outlaid some $3 million of ratepayers' money removing their ugly 1960 buildings and constructing a heritage-friendly office for its staff and reinstating the original Town Hall portico. Council's own Queenscliff Urban Conservation Study lists some 13 key properties in Learmont Street, including the Town Hall, and they can be seen in the Urban Conservation Study on pages 97 through to 113. With this in mind, will councillors please disregard the officer's recommendation and support a relocation of the EV chargers to a less sensitive location? Ideally, this 24-hour commercial operation should be away from residential areas and close to the main arterial road and transport terminal in the harbour area, where some 250,000 cars are using the ferry facility each year. In addition, Madam Mayor, I would just like to emphasise the fact that the National Trust, this is the Geelong and Regional National Trust, have stated that it deplores the insensitive siting of the above EV chargers in the heritage streetscape of Learmont Street, and I believe each of the councillors have now received a copy of that report. Also, I'd like to make the point that there's been no community consultation or a planning process for the residents of Learmont Street. And in my view, this isn't actually giving people a fair go. I might also add that the people of Hamilton in the South Grampian Shire, I believe, have recently relocated their EV chargers to another site, and the RSL in particular was wanting that this to happen, and it looks like there's a precedent being set. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, David. To respond to your question, I note that we'll come back to you after the deliberation of the item at agenda item 9.1, and I guess your additional question about confirming receipt of the National Trust's letter. Yes, councillors have received that. Public question number 4 comes from the Point Lonsdale Civic Association, which is David again, if you wish to read it out.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. Further to the Council's agenda item in the February ordinary meeting, CEO report page 24, the Association would like to ask the following. Point 1, so that Queenscliff Council doesn't repeat the mistakes associated with the installation of EV chargers where residents were not consulted and there's no planning process, can the Council please outline the planning and consultation process used to determine the 4 Mondo sites to install the 100 kilowatt and 250 kilowatt batteries on council-owned land? And item 2, given the HV electrical work in Point Lonsdale interweaves with the City of Greater Geelong, would the Council be prepared to discuss with the City of Greater Geelong a possible site in Geelong where there may be more suitable sites in an electrical high voltage network context, which may allow more conductivity? Okay, thanks.
Thank you, David. I'll ask the CEO to respond to the question.
Thank you, Mayor. And through you, David, I'll respond to the first question and take the second question on notice in accordance with our question time guidelines.
I haven't heard the messaging coming from the gallery, but we are required to respect the governance rules that govern the conduct of this meeting.
So in response to your first question, David, Mondo have committed to working with Council to undertake an information workshop for the community if their application is successful.
Public question number 5 comes from Ian Royce.
My question goes to reputation of the borough in regards to the EV charges. The council agenda regarding the EV charges notes that as part of the non-financial implications or risks associated with the relocation of the EV charges as being potential reputational damage, i.e. the reputational damage speaks to the way the borough is viewed by funding agencies and other tiers of government. There is a risk that a breach of the funding agreement presents council as an unreliable partner and it influences the outcomes of future funding applications. So my question is, with so many petitioners and a letter from the National Trust, could the same risk framework potentially also occur in how council obtained, acquired and actioned the grant from the DELWP for these unsightly Bowsers?
Thank you, Ian. I'll ask the CEO to respond.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, Ian, I must apologise. I don't necessarily understand the question, so I'll need to come back to you and clarify what you're asking, and I'm happy to give a response then.
Can I just put it into some layman's terms that perhaps it was outlined by the borough that by relocating the EV charges that it would lose part of its reputation, and also that would affect how the borough is viewed by other government departments. And it may, this is the borough's saying this, that the reputation and that loss of reputation may affect future funding arrangements because it makes the borough look unreliable. So what I guess I'm saying is that because of the, does that also, affect, is that reputation also at risk by the way the council has obtained, acquired and actioned the grant from the DELWP for these unsightly Bowsers? So are we also worried that that may cause loss of reputation?
From the government departments that approved?
Yes, the fact that you essentially, with so many petitioners, I'm just going to read it because I'm getting lost myself. Is there potentially also occur in how so loss of reputation because of,
No, that's right. If I think I've got it correct, and we can go over this again. All I would say is that the government responded to our grant application. They awarded the grant, they set the conditions of that grant, and they relinquished the money to us because we'd met all those conditions. So they at the moment, I don't think there is an additional risk that the government would see us as being a bad actor because we've actually delivered what we said we would deliver.
Thank you. And Ian, thank you for the clarification. I appreciate being able to address that today. Public question number 6 comes from David Connolly.
Thank you, Mayor, and I presume the QCA question has been ruled out because of you or the Mayor or the CEO?
Ruled out by all parties prescribed with that responsibility under the Governance Rules Section 99.
All councillors and CEO?
CEO presented a recommendation and councillors supported it unanimously.
Okay. All right, just a slight correction. The first line, delete was and has stayed. The Queenscliff Traffic Management Strategy has now undergone 4 final revisions at unknown cost after the draft document was completed in December 2022. The initial draft document did not entail any advertised or formal community consultation, despite considerable amount of questions of when the draft report was going to be released. There was also an assurance from the CEO at the time that the traffic and pedestrian quantifiable data from Sea Road ferries was being provided and going to be included in the report. I can't locate any quantifiable data that measures any of that. Since December 2022, Council has released the ATS, completed various wombat and zebra crossings without the benefit of the draft management strategy being made available for debatable reasons. The community now, 2 years after the draft was presented to Council, is provided, was presented to Council, I'm just trying to capture that, is provided an opportunity to be consulted on a final version. The notation in the appendix is that it's a final version, and there's been 4 of those particular revisions to a final version. The question is, can the council or can the community be assured by councillors this consultation will not amount to a Clayton's consultation and engagement process, given a draft was delivered 2 years ago, and will community consultation proposed on the Queenscliff Traffic Management Strategy result in any substantial or effective alterations to the ratio final draft report given that the limited changes were made to the ATS? Thank you.
Thanks, David. I can confirm that council staff, officers rather, will review all the feedback received, that this is a draft document only, and that significant changes are really hinged on the feedback we get to the document, but we welcome that heartily. And the item as is presented at 15.2 also acknowledges that it will be on public exhibition for 28 days.
And what was the reason why the initial draft 2 years ago wasn't going out to consultation?
Through you, Mayor. We've provided that response to you in the past, David. Yep.
Yeah, because the community couldn't understand the two documents.
Yeah. Okay, in line with the governance rules, I will take that as a separate question on notice. If you would like a response to it, it is a separate, not a clarifying question. Thank you. Our last public question, number 7, comes from Jane Abbott. Thanks, Jane. Murray Road Bike Plan. Will the community consultation proposed be a proper in-person plus Zoom consultation rather than an online survey? In-person consultation allows for exchange of ideas, exchanging reasons for the differing opinions, and gives a robust chance for a consensus to be arrived at. As an example, the Shortland Bluff development proposals and consequent objections were managed very successfully by this process. If the answer at this stage is no, then will Council reconsider? And I'll ask the CEO to respond.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. Similar to the community consultation conducted on this matter in 2019, Council's Murray Road engagement consultation next month will include a combination of different communication options. Council will conduct in-person drop-in sessions where community members can ask questions and discuss their ideas with Council staff, In addition, there'll be opportunities for people to engage with council through electronic surveys or provide written submissions during that engagement process.
That now concludes public question time. Thank you to all who've put a question to council. I'll move us to item number 6, confirmation of minutes of previous meetings. 6.1, ordinary meeting of council on December 13, 2023. So the minutes have been distributed under separate cover, and the recommendation is that these minutes be confirmed as an accurate record. Do I have someone to move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Ebbels, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Grigau. All in favour? Thank you, passed unanimously. Item 6.2, Audit and Risk Committee meeting on 5 December 2023. Just also acknowledging this is the first meeting of our new committee, so we reiterate our welcome to those new independent members and the newly appointed councillors to the committee. But again, here the recommendation is that the minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting from 5 December be acknowledged as an accurate record. So I'll ask for a mover, preferably from the committee, to verify that. Thank you, Councillor Grigau, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Ebbels. Did either our mover or seconder wish to speak to those? Nope. All in favour then? Thank you, so passed. Item 7, our record of informal meetings of councillors. So we have a list here taking us from December, mid-December to end of Feb, and the recommendation is that the record as presented be noted. I would like to move here that the record be noted with a change, and that is that I was on a leave of absence on January 24, so not in attendance at the Assembly as the adjunct indicates. Do I have a seconder for that, or anyone else seeking amendments or changes to that record? Thank you. I've got Councillor Minty as our seconder to that amended motion. All in favour? Thank you. Passed. Item 8, notice of motion. 8.1, notice of motion status update. No notices of motion are outstanding. Item 8.2, notice of motion number 2024-590, funding request to preserve the historic Ballara Deakin estate. I might hand over to Councillor Ebbels, whose motion this is, to provide some context to the motion before us.
Thank you very much, Mayor Tolhurst, and I think we all know the importance of the Ballara, not just to Point Lonsdale and not just to the residents of the Borough of Queenscliff, but from a national perspective as well. I think it's really important that we do what we can to retain Ballara. I think there's a lot of information there that I've put in the notice on motion. I do have a recommendation, councillors, and the recommendation is slightly different to that that's in the agenda, and that I'm replacing item number 1 with the following: that council directs the CEO to write a letter of support to the family members of Ballara seeking to buy the property, including the contingent contribution of $300,000 to come from the borough's unallocated reserves. This letter is to be sent by the 29th of February 2024, capturing points 1 to 3 of this motion. Number 2, the allocated amount is not transferred until council is satisfied that all legal requirements for a trust are in place, including confirmation of Deakin University's financial contribution and the ongoing involvement with Ballara. 3, funding is not provided to the trust if other financial contributions are not forthcoming, allowing for the trust to purchase the property. And I'm happy in moving that, Mayor Tolhurst.
Thank you, Councillor Ebbels. Do I have a seconder for Councillor? Thank you, Councillor Grigau. Councillor Ebbels, do you wish to speak to the motion further?
Yes, I do. Just apart from those notes that I've put in my notice on motion, I'd just like to say that I think we've only got one chance at this, and I think if we don't take this chance, the potential is that Ballara would be lost forever. And I note that a lot of the talk at the moment is talking about the lungs of Point Lonsdale and the ecological benefit it has to Point Lonsdale in the area, both from a fauna and also the bird life in the borough. And it would be a real shame if that was to be lost. And I think it's, sorry, just to mention that the reason we need to send that letter quickly is because there is a VCAT, going to a VCAT hearing in March, on March 1. So that's why we need to make sure, unfortunately, potentially for the CEO to write a letter tomorrow, if this motion is passed. Thank you, Mayor Tolhurst.
Thank you, Councillor Grigaux. Our seconder, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you. In this chamber, we talk a lot about heritage, and but tonight we gather to discuss a matter of great importance: the preservation of our built heritage, our culture, and our history. In the scenic landscape of Point Lonsdale stands a monument to our past, a beacon of Victorian architecture integrated into the environment, and a testament to the legacy of one of our nation's most distinguished leaders, Ballara, the Alfred Deakin House. Alfred Deakin was a towering figure in Australian history. He played an instrumental role in shaping our nation's identity and guiding it through pivotal moments in its development. As the second Prime Minister of Australia, Alfred Deakin's contributions to our political, social and economic fabric are complex, sometimes controversial, but significantly covering big picture concepts of migration, introduction of old age pensions, establishing the Bureau of Meteorology, introduction of the basic wage concept in the Harvester Judgment, nominating Canberra as the site for the federal capital and introducing the Federal Quarantine Act, etc. Deakin's vision, foresight and dedication to community service is still being felt today. Ballara, the residence that bore witness to many of Deakin's endeavours, stands not only as a physical structure but a living testament to the ideals and that he championed. Its walls resonate with the echoes of debate, discussions that shape the course of Australia's post-colonial history. To facilitate such a significant piece of our heritage, becoming a national asset with increased public accessibility would be a wonderful legacy, not just for our local community but for Victoria. Likewise, not doing all we can to prevent the possible breakup of this and fall into despair would be tantamount to easing a vital chapter from our collective narrative. Preserving Ballara is not merely about safeguarding Paddy Deakin's wonderful garden or bricks and mortar. It's also about honouring the development of ideas and the progress of that Alfred Deakin embodied at a moment in history. It's about recognising the work of those who came before us and ensuring that their legacy is understood for generations to come. Moreover, the preservation of Ballara and investment in our community's future. By maintaining our historical landmarks, we provide future generations with tangible connections to our past, fostering a sense of identity, pride and belonging, something that is somewhat lacking currently. It becomes a place where school children can learn about the complexity of our nation's history, where scholars can conduct research and where visitors can experience firsthand the rich tapestry of our heritage. In a rapidly changing world, it's easy to prioritise the new over the old, the modern over the historical. Yet we must remember that our past is not something to be discarded but cherished and celebrated. By helping Ballara evolve into its next phase with greater public access, we affirm our borough's commitment to preserving our heritage, honouring our pioneers and shaping our future that is firmly rooted in the lessons of the past. I urge my fellow councillors to join me in this endeavour to stand together with the borough's community to support our shared history and ensure that Ballara, the Alfred and Paddy Deakin House and Garden remains a beacon of inspiration for generations to come.
Thank you, Councillor Grigaux. Do I have any councillors wishing to speak against the motion or for the motion additionally? Councillor Minty.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like
also to speak on behalf of the motion. As a Point Lonsdale resident, the importance of the space, the importance of the garden, which has been reborn basically in what has been there for an extremely long time, and of course, as my colleague said, it has become the lungs of Point Lonsdale and a very important part of what we do. I'd like to also elevate Paddy Deacon, the wife of Alfred, in her role as well. She formed a partnership with Alfred Deacon throughout the United Kingdom and was lobbying for the Australian Constitution Bill, and she also was there and playing a full role at the opening of the first Parliament within Australia. It is truly they are an important family. They have laid the foundation of what we are here at the moment, and I'd say it's a small contribution to hold on to something that's very, very worthwhile for the citizens of the borough. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Minty. Councillor Grout.
Yes, thanks. Yeah, I too support this proposal. Ballara is important to people in the borough, the state and the country. It's a heritage treasure on our doorstep. The family that built it still own it. So it's filled with wonderful memorabilia, and the grounds are a delight. I think the proposal to keep this treasure in hands that should enable our community to benefit in the following ways. These are just some of the ways I think we might benefit. From impact on our local economy through this potential visitor attraction. We'll also actually save a lot of planning expenses, I suspect, and we will stop some of the locals experiencing some unhappiness by avoiding subdivisions. So I believe there is a level of community support for helping to keep this building and the grounds in hands that will facilitate this.
Thank you, Councillor Grout. I speak against the motion. I fundamentally support saving Ballara. I, however, don't support the amount proposed. And this is the really difficult job of councillors, is finding a balance between all the duties and responsibilities we have to all the community. For all the reasons my colleagues have mentioned, including massive community support. I've actually not encountered a campaign that has seemingly such unanimous support. I think it also, a contribution and support shows a commitment to all levels of government to support the campaign and to support it staying in public hands. I think the environmental benefits are abundant, as well as what it says about preserving and celebrating our history, and support is consistent with how council what actions council has taken in the past, including writing to the Federal Environment Minister in seeking emergency heritage listing. So I do think this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I suppose I have reservations about the proposed amount. And we're looking at a really tight budget this year. So my proposal, and perhaps I'm putting it to my colleagues as an amended motion, is to alter item D of Councillor Ebbels, item item 1, and proposing a contribution of $150,000, which is approximately $51.70 contribution from each ratepayer. I think this is reasonable, given that we don't have all the details of the trust, but that council certainly wants to extend its hand and provide that public support. So I would be seeking a seconder for my amended motion.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Grout. Does that go to the vote now? Great, so I will have to put the amended motion to the vote unless people want to speak against that. Fundamentally, I think lots of the debate has talked about the opposition, but let's have it out. So Councillor Ebbels.
Tolhurst, just a point of order. Maybe the CEO can let me know that does an amended motion need to be approved by the person who proposed the initial motion?
certainly helps, but no.
So if there is no debate on the amended motion, I'll put that to... Thank you, Councillor Grigor.
That 150,000 seems very tokenistic, where the federal government has been requested a sum of like 2.5 million. As a small community, to actually put up like a good like 10%, over 10% of the what the federal government is actually requested put in, or whether could be seen to be put in, it shows that our community is serious about supporting heritage and preserving a national treasure. We've got many homes by past prime ministers, and this is not this is purely backed by both bipartisan approach, and without actually having a significant amount money actually where you put on the table, that we wouldn't have a seat to actually decide on the future, or having a seat on the trust that we can guide and ensure the house and the property is well looked after.
Thank you, Councillor Grigor. Do others wish to speak for or against the amended motion?
I'd like to speak against the motion, and certainly concur with my colleague, Councillor Grigor. I think we need to send a clear message to the federal government. I think 300,000 is 300,000 spades that we can, when we're talking. I think the $300,000 we haven't pulled out of thin air. This is actually the 300,000 is what was requested from the family, and I think I'd hate to think that because we gave $150,000 instead of $300,000 out of unallocated reserve funds, that Ballara didn't get over the line. So that's why I'm speaking against the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ebbels. Councillor Grout, have you got your microphone on indicating?
Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, I think, so I looked at how much we were each going to chip in for this, and if we were putting in 100,000, it's about $30 each. If we're putting in 150, it's about $50 each. And I suppose I'm just gauging the level of support. Not everybody in town wants to see us contribute the sum that Councillor Ebbels is suggesting, and so I'm very happy to support preservation of this heritage asset. I'm more comfortable with the lower amount at this stage, and I suppose I don't see that stumping up 300,000 at this stage is going to make a difference in terms of the decision that others might make in terms of how much they put in. And remember that any individual is able to make a contribution if they wish to the trust. So if people want to put in more, they can, as individuals.
Thank you, Councillor Grout. Councillor Minty, no. So I will execute my right of reply just to respond to some of the comments made, and do appreciate the reiterating of the value of this to our community. I think we're unanimous in that sentiment. I would just say that by way of not stumping up as much as the federal government, we don't have coffers as deep, and even their coffers are shallowing by the day. The terms of the trust are not yet determined, so while it's contingent, we don't have full clarity on what we're engaging with. And maybe I'll just leave it at that and put this to the vote. So with the amended motion identifying all of Councillor Ebbels' original motion, but altering the total amount or contribution, the contingent contribution to $150,000, I'll put it to the vote. All in favour? All opposed? The motion is lost. And with that, we will revert to the original motion, and I'll put the motion to the vote. So all in favour of Councillor Ebbels' original motion and contribution of $3,000, $300,000. I'm calling for those in favour of that contribution. Passed unanimously. Thank you very much, and thank you for the robust debate.
Call for a division on this, please.
We all voted.
Yes,
Sure,
it's
sure.
it's been
Yep,
noted, thank
fair
you.
enough, yep. So I'll retake the vote with Councillor Grigau having called a division, so all in favour. Councillors Grout, Ebbels, Tolhurst, Minty and Grigau. Thank you. That moves us to item number 9, petitions and joint letters. Item 9.1, petition, relocation of the EV chargers from Learmonth Street. Pardon me. So the petition was received in November and it has sat on the table and then was deferred, requiring further consideration from Council in order to table a response in December's meeting. So we're here presented with a recommendation from the officers. So there's a large brief here and quite a bit of context around the officers' recommendation, but it reads thus: that Council 1 does not relocate the EV chargers in response to the petition. 2, requests the CEO to prepare a report investigating the benefits of creating a new standalone policy dealing with the installation of EV charging stations and points and other climate-related infrastructure for review by Council. And 3, requests the CEO to write to the authors of the petition to inform them of the Council decision. Do I have someone to move that motion? Thank you, Councillor Minty. And a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Ebbels. Councillor Minty, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I do, thank you, Mayor. First of all, I support the recommendation, and it's not a criticism of people who completed the document and formed their signatures appear on that. It's basically what has occurred here is that the electric chargers have been legally placed, were funded significantly by the state government under an arrangement with the council, and the council has followed the regulations to put them where they put them. The petition itself actually reads that the issue that is most important to those is that the street is inappropriate. I don't believe the street is inappropriate. There were petrol pumps in Hesse Street for many, many years, and the library now sits where they were and are. The importance of the location of EV chargers in a growing electronic vehicle market is that we've got to provide the facility to our residents. And what's missing here is the discussion about our residents and what's actually happening in the real world and the marketplace that we've got here. We talk about heritage. My friend David spoke about other places who are basically moving their EV chargers. I was lucky enough in June of last year to be travelling abroad and visit a place called Koblenz, and those of you who know it are on the rivers of the Mosel and the Rhine. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. They have 2 chargers. They sit in the middle of that UNESCO World Heritage Site. They sit outside the council offices, the rat house as it is known there. It is necessary for us, I think, and believe, if there is no, how can I put it, if there is no illegality here, that the appropriateness of the sites where there is no alternative being offered, even as a proposal within the document itself, therefore, I believe that having done everything that's necessary and facing approximately a bill of anything between $150,000 and $200,000 to move them to another site where not in my backyard will also occur. For that, I believe that we are better off leaving the charges where they are. And that is why I move the motion that Council recommends that we do not relocate the EV charges, request the CEO prepare a document, a report investigating the benefits of creating a new standalone policy dealing with the installation of EV charges and station points and other climate-related infrastructure for review by Council, and request the CEO to write to the authors of the petition to inform them of the Council decision.
Thank you, Councillor Minty. Councillor Ebbels, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, please, Mayor Tolhurst. And I just want to add a couple of observations and thoughts that obviously there's still, with the EV charges remaining in place, there's still an opportunity to gather more information about the EV charges on how and when the EV charges are used. For example, are they actually used in the late evenings? Council does have the means to regulate when the charge stations operate. Council can also regulate and charge for people who are what's known as an idle usage. It's possible the Council can also place more appropriate skins over the charges to blend in better with the local environment. Also, an opportunity would lie with modern technology such as QR codes to promote the businesses of Queenscliff and Point Lonsdale while people are charging their cars. Apart from the signatures on the petition, councillors have also received feedback from local residents for the charger, positive feedback from the local residents for the charger stations at our councillor listening posts. Councillors, we've also received letters of support for the charge stations. I'm just reading my... and I think it's also, in regard to the location, it's really important that the charging stations are within walking distance of the main street for our local traders, and not from, as someone requested, maybe down at the harbour, which is then potentially taking trade away from our local traders in the main street of Hesse Street. Thank you, Mayor Tolhurst.
Thank you, Councillor Ebbels. Do I have anyone to speak against the motion?
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor
Can I just have one clarification on one thing before I'd actually like to propose an alternative motion. But in the papers, it actually...
Is the question, sorry, for the CEO or?
Oh, yeah, well, whoever wrote or, proposed the preamble or the regarding what was written in our documents with the agenda papers. It says on page 14, it states that the grant was awarded exclusively for the installation of EV electronic vehicle fast chargers at 50 Learmont Street. That's correct?
Through you, Mayor, yeah, that's a condition of the grant.
Okay, condition of the grant, but a simple Google search, showing the property venues, the actual EV charge has actually been installed in 52 Learmont Street. So if you actually look it up, it's actually saying, have they been actually installed in the wrong location?
Through you, Mayor, the borough offices are addressed as 50 Learmont Street. So in terms of our legal address, it's 50 Learmont Street. So that goes from, which was previously 48 or 46 through to 52. So they're located at the legal address.
Thank you, Councillor Grigao. You mentioned an alternative motion you wish to put to the chamber?
Yes, I would like. Sort of on an alternative motion of 1, Council to establish a 5-person skilled-based community reference group comprising of 3 community members, 1 council representative and 1 councillor as chair, to develop a policy for EV chargers, excluding other climate-related infrastructure within the borough which considers factors such as heritage impact, regional tourism, travel corridors, different types of road users, energy demanding model for EV users, geography and demographics, electricity network constraints, land manager consent and license agreement processes, types of charging infrastructure, a public interest test assessing the proposal, community commercial benefit, projects costs, both financial and non-financial, and the associated risks. Opportunities for private sector in infrastructure provision, adherence to council requirements, requirements for new developments, ability of off-street parking, EV charging noise emissions, fire safety. The reference group will report no later than June 1, 2024. Council officers are to prepare a preliminary draft terms of reference by the end of March 2024. Council meeting, which, if passed, will be made available for community consultation in the first 2 weeks of April 2024, and a final report with recommendations submitted at the April 2024 Council meeting. And 2, by April 2024 Council meeting, an options paper to the concept design stage level of detail is to be developed by an external engineers and costed by an external quantity surveyor to cost plan level B, which addresses the heritage and amenity concerns of the 400 plus objectors. The Council is to obtain formal advice from the state government about the impact of the options on the grant of $70,000. Options include swap units for low profile or in-ground units while leaving transformer in situ, relocate units and transformer to an off-site area where impact on the heritage streetscape and amenity is minimised. For example, car park at the rear of chemist shop or another site. Other options which meet appropriate performance criteria should be considered. Councillors will then be able to make an informed decision on the possible relocation of the EV chargers.
Thank you, Councillor Grigau. May I ask a clarifying question of the alternate motion, and that is for councillors' benefit in comprehending this alternative motion as it was recently presented, and we do appreciate having it in writing, what cost plan B level explicitly means?
Cost plan B is a government plan saying sort of how much it actually comes to the council with all the details.
Okay, thank you. Are there further clarifying questions before I seek a seconder for the alternative motion put by Councillor Grigau? No. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Grout.
Seconded.
Thank you. Back to you then, Councillor Grigau, if you wish to speak further to that motion.
The fundamental question has not been answered about why there was no community consultation when the EV chargers were being planned. Just because no planning permit was required did not obfuscate the need for consultation, particularly in a heritage-sensitive area. It is disingenuous and disrespectful to the community objectors to say that heritage and neighbourhood character overlays can be ignored just because a project is under $1 million. Queenscliff prides and promotes itself on being a town where heritage is respected and preserved. To say the EV chargers and the substation are the next phase of heritage evolution is laughable. If council officers cannot consider the 400 plus objectors may have a valid point, then there is a serious disconnection between the council and its community. It flags an unwillingness to accept criticism and acknowledge a wrong decision was made. It is incumbent on the council to undertake works which align with community values, unless in exceptional circumstances this cannot be complied with. This is not one of those situations. The objectors accept the emerging requirement for EV chargers, but ask that their installation is done in a manner which respects the heritage streetscape and local amenity. The council officer is deficient in that it has not addressed the fact that councillors did not approve the plan as the council advised the state government. Just because councils approve the SERP does not give council officers carte blanche to do anything which falls vaguely within that document's frame of reference. The SERP is a strategy document, not detailed action plan, which avoids the need for further council input.
Councillor Grout, Gruyere, pardon me, point of order. I will need you to withdraw the remark that said officers have carte blanche and that councillors didn't provide any support for the plan. While there was no resolution, and a resolution wasn't required by the state government, there was support when the Learmonth Street location was presented to councillors in an assembly, and that's been detailed in this chamber previously.
Assemblies do not constitute a decision by council. It's a proven fact. You cannot take a decision at an assembly as a decision to actually approve to do anything. It has to go through a motion at council.
Thank you.
Am I correct?
Well, the decision comes from inclusion in the council plan. So the strategic oversight and input is given at that level, and then the location, it was over to the CEO. This has been discussed in this chamber and with questions put to council of a similar nature. So please, I just was seeking clarification and I guess withdrawal of a remark that has been addressed, but I do invite you to proceed with your speaking to the motion. Thank you.
Justifies that location outside the council building is on the basis that council passed the SERP, and this has little bearing than virtual signalling. It has not addressed the noise emitting from the EV chargers which can be heard from within neighbouring houses. It has not addressed that in local government area that a medium age of over 60 years, the loss of 5 car parks directly in front of the council building is an impost on elderly community members who may have mobility issues. However, the council officer, I actually will not support the 3 recommendations on page 19 on the agenda. Instead, I move the amendments as I have read out.
Thank you. And Councillor Grout, as the seconder, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, please. Look, I think this is a good process for relocation. It's more transparent and with community input via appropriately skilled people, and I quite like that model. Our community's got a wealth of skills, and we do need to harness these skills better in order to get better results.
Thank you, Councillor Grout. I'll invite others to speak against the motion in the first instance. I wish to speak against the motion. I principally don't support the relocation based on feeling that we've satisfactorily fulfilled all the grant requirements, policies, planning scheme requirements, etc., and that no state member or department has come to the borough indicating otherwise. I think this alternative motion suggests that we have perhaps pursued an improper process and maybe undermines the fact that we did explore, or officers explored several other locations and for a variety of reasons ruled them out as invalid and inappropriate. I also support the original recommendation and do hold concern, as the report notes, for things like interagency trust, which could be compromised if we're not seen as an effective and reliable delivery partner, and believe we have a duty to pursue the commitment we've made to our community around renewable infrastructure. And the reality is we are living in a climate crisis, and that these are really important, well-used pieces of infrastructure that are getting good usership currently from local community members, from the region, and from people further afield. And to remove them would not only be a large cost imposition, but would immediately halt or stop a small revenue earner that council has in the EV charges. If there's no further comment or debate, sorry, Councillor Grigg, I'll put to your right of reply, if you wish.
Right of reply regarding the impost on cost, with the relocation at the new location, the money raised could go to the cost of the relocation. And it's like, just saying, oh, we're going to forego. Well, we're not saying we're going to get rid of the EV charges totally out of the borough. The community is asking for a more appropriate site. That's all, and proper process and good governance and following the rules of of building infrastructure is what the community is actually asking for. It's very it comes down to it just purely on the price and saying that we're going to go without money. That's just not true. The new at a new location will be that would probably generate more. Usage would actually quickly pay for the relocation.
Thank you, Councillor Grigg. With the debate now concluded, I will put the alternative motion to the vote. So all in favour? All opposed? So the motion lapses or fails.
Call for it.
Yep, so Councillor Grigg has called for a division on the alternative motion put. So I'll call again for those in favour of the motion. I have Councillor Grigg and Councillor Grout in favour, and all opposed. I have Councillor Ebbels, Councillor Tolhurst and Councillor Minty. And I note the motion is lost, and we revert to consideration of the original motion, which is as presented in the agenda paper. So with that, I'll put the recommendation as presented to the vote. All in favour?
Just a point of order. I wish to speak some more against this motion.
The governance rules require me to put the motion, once we've reverted from the alternative, immediately to the vote, given we've been debating the alternative. So the requirement is that I put it immediately to the vote without debate or right of reply. So I will now put the original motion, having reverted to it, to the vote. All in favour? All opposed? The motion is carried.
Call for a division on this, please.
Councillor Grigg has called for a division, so I'll again put the original motion as presented in the agenda paper to the vote. So all in favour? Councillor Ebbels, Councillor Tolhurst, Councillor Minty, and all opposed? Councillor Grout and Councillor Grigg. And the motion remains carried. Thank you. That brings us to item 10, functions attended list. So we have a list of meetings and functions where council was represented from 9 December to Feb 21. The recommendation is merely that the report be received. Do I have someone to move that motion? Thank you, Councillor Ebbels, and a seconder in Councillor Minty. All in favour? Thank you, carried. Item 11 is the Chief Executive Officer, and 11.1 is our report for Feb from the CEO. So I will hand over to Martin to talk to that report.
Through you, Mayor, and thank you. I won't add anything to the papers, but very happy to take questions if councillors have any.
Thank you, Martin. Do I have anyone in the first instance to put it on the table by moving receipt of the report as per the recommendation?
Happy to do that.
Thank you, Councillor Ebbels, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Minty. Councillor Ebbels, in the first instance, did you have a question for the CEO?
Yes, just to the CEO, just in regard to the container deposit scheme about obviously being located at the Queenscliff Bowling Tennis Club car park. I did note that we didn't have a date, but I noticed today there's the what looks like the shell of the equipment ready to go in. I was just wondering if we had any update from Tomra about when they're actually going to deliver the system.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. They haven't given me timing for the project works, but you're correct. The construction commenced today, So, yep.
Thank you.
Further questions for the CEO on the report before us?
Yeah, Mr. CEO, there's the information here about the investigation, about the formal complaint about the electric vehicle charges. And who actually did the investigation?
Through you, Mayor. So I did the investigation, Councillor Grant.
And did we consider asking outside persons to be involved in the investigation?
So the complaints policy, Council's complaints policy, talks about the first phase of the investigation is for it to be done internally. And then the community, if they're not happy with the result of that investigation, can engage a third party to review that.
Further questions for the CEO before I put this item to the vote? All in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Item 12 is Health and Wellbeing Portfolio, and item 12.1 is the G21 Regional Football Strategy 2023 to 2033. And I'll invite the CEO to present this report as well. Thank you.
Through you, Mayor, and thank you. And councillors are probably very familiar with this strategy now. It's been through workshops and it's been with you for a couple of months. As noted in the report, we don't have any infrastructure for football in the borough, but there is acknowledgement of growth in participation. However, we've been requested by our colleagues across the region to really put our weight behind the advocacy for a new facility in Armstrong Creek, and that's reflected in the strategy.
Thank you. Do I have someone to move the motion in the first instance? Thank you, Councillor Minty, our Health and Wellbeing Portfolio holder, and someone to second the motion. Thank you, Councillor Ebbels. Councillor Minty, did you wish to speak to the motion or ask a question of the CEO about the report?
No, it's been well canvassed. I think it's a terrific strategy, and I think participating in it's going to be good for our young and older people.
Thanks, Councillor Minty. Councillor Ebbels, did you wish to speak to the motion? Do any councillors wish to speak against the motion? No. Then I will put the motion to the vote, which is that we endorse the G21 football strategy as presented. So all in favour? Thank you, that's carried unanimously. Item 13 is the Environment Portfolio, and 13.1 is the Climate Emergency Response Plan Annual Update. I think we have Stuart Hanson, our Manager of Environment and Infrastructure, to present this report.
Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. The purpose of this report is to provide an update on the implementation of the actions within the Borough's Climate Emergency Response Plan. The recommendation before Council tonight is on page 34 of the agenda, and that is that Council notes the Climate Emergency Response Plan Annual Update outlining the progress of the Council lead or supported actions.
Thank you, Stuart. Can I have someone to move this motion before we open the floor to questions? Councillor Grout, thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Grigau. Thank you. Councillor Grout, did you wish to ask a question of Stuart or comment on the report?
Yeah, question of clarification. I noticed in the report it talks about a vegetation management policy at action 5, which is on page 51. And I'm pleased to see that we've got some percentage completions, so we get some idea about how far we've progressed with these actions. I note that in Action 5, Vegetation Management Policy, it talks about 60% completion. And I did note when I was looking at the annual plan that it talks about the Vegetation Management Strategy, and in the annual plan, that's only 10% complete. So I wanted to try and understand what the difference was between the Vegetation Management Strategy in the annual plan and this Vegetation Management Policy in the SERP annual update.
I'm happy to take that, Stuart. Yeah, so the policies and strategies are generally two different things. So we've been working with Council on a policy, and we did some initial work on that, and then Council put that on hold. But and doing that, they also said that they wanted a strategy rather than a policy. The strategy then started to progress, and once the Council got into the Coastal Marina Management Plan work, they also asked us to put the strategy on hold. So we've sort of started two different documents, and we're just waiting for Council to give us some direction on which way we should go next.
So then the follow-up, then what sort of direction do we need to give? Because I've been asking for a policy, and as you know, there's an expansion of the two policies we currently have. We got one on street trees, and we do have one on vegetation vandalism. But there's lots of gaps, and I've discussed this with officers. So we have gaps about all the trees in our parks, all the pocket parks and playgrounds. We have gaps about the vegetation in our foreshores, the salt marsh, the Myrna woodlands, the dune vegetation, and we don't have any policy around weeds as such. So what direction are you seeking beyond that I've suggested that we need to sort of fill in the gaps that we have in policy?
Through you, Mayor. Something quite simple, actually, Councillor Grout. Just first step would be, do you want a policy or a strategy? And which one do you want us to work on? And then the second step would be to recommence that work that we have previously been doing. So you can do that through the Mayor, or you can do it through a decision of Council.
Okay, I'll have a discussion with the Mayor again.
Councillor Grigau, is that the conclusion of your questions, Councillor Grout? Thank you. Councillor Grigau, did you wish to put any questions or speak to the motion as the seconder?
Yes, just regarding the solar rooftop plan, sort of what guarantees we're pushing out, sort of promoting sort of solar rooftops, and a lot of the solar rooftops are actually coming, affordable and sort of low cost ones are coming out of Zhejiang province, and they're actually produced by slave labour, by Uyghurs. So what guarantee can we ensure that the solar panels that we're actually installing, that when we're promoting to be installed in the borough, have not been produced by slave labour?
We specify tier 1 products in our specifications when we're purchasing for council buildings. Likewise, with the recent bulk buy programs, we've also specified that requirement. Tier 1 products are vetted, and that's one of the criteria that's judged.
So can you guarantee then that we are not going to get supplied with slave labour produced solar panels?
I need to trust in the processes that are there telling us that.
Should we while we promote sort of fairness and things, should we ensure that we do not get, not supporting slave labour?
So
should we
I think that question has been satisfactorily answered, and if we're unsatisfied that the process is sufficient, councillors can certainly call for that to be reviewed. Do others wish to speak against or for the motion or put questions to Stuart? Thank you, Councillor Ebbels.
Thank you, Mayor Tolhurst. Just a question, Stuart. Pillar 7, consumption of waste. It talks about introduce 4-bin waste and recycling collection system. It says the project is 25% completed, yet we have 3 out of the 4 bins, and I'm just a tech boy from Geelong, but I would have thought we're 75% completed.
True. As part of the broader project, there's some auditing that's about to happen to inform some education. So an education program is a big part of that. There'll be a future decision in front of council as to when the purple bins, which are the glass bins, will be introduced, and another education program following that. So in what you see, you'd argue that you've got 3/4 of the project complete.
Okay, thank you. But thanks for the clarification.
No worries.
Councillor Minty, any questions from you? I might put a question then to you, Stuart, around the integrated water management plan, and understand that there might have, been some changes to that project's viability. So wondering whether that will require change to Pillar 6 Action 12 in the SERP, or whether that's being substituted with something else by way of a regional approach to water management.
It hasn't been substituted. We're still targeting the production of an integrated water management plan. The reason it's not achievable right now is the funding program that was available at the time of the project inception is no longer available. Currently, there's no other substitute funding program. The program's always been contingent on being funded by grant funding. There's a possibility that grant funding will come. We're keeping an eye out for that. However, we'll also put to council through the budget process for next financial year a question of whether council wants to fund that project directly.
Thank you very much. If there are no further questions or those speaking for or against the motion, I will put the recommendation that we note the Climate Emergency Response Plan annual update to the vote. So all in favour? Thank you. Passed unanimously. Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you.
Item 14, thanks for hanging in there everyone, I know it's hot in here, is the local economy portfolio in which there are no reports to consider. Item 15 is the heritage planning and infrastructure portfolio, and item 15.1 is the planning permit activity report. So thank you, Tim. I'll leave it to you to, at a high level, take us through that report.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of the following report provides a summary of the planning permit activity for the last month. So it was published up until close of business on the 19th of April 2024. The recommendation is that the planning permit activity report be received by Council. I'd just like to add 2 points, please. Firstly, that Council has received an interim report in the middle of April, given...
January.
Sorry, that came from in the middle of January, given there was no meeting in June. That was a request made of councillors last year. And also just to acknowledge the correction that's on page 58 and 59 of this report. And I'll just read it out, please. At the ordinary council meeting held in December 2023, council officers responded to a question from Councillor Minty, who asked if council had received a planning permit application about a change of use of works at the Royal Hotel in Queenscliff. Council officers replied that there were no current planning permits, meaning council were not assessing any planning permits. Council officers should have clarified the response by indicating that planning permits had previously been obtained to undertake works and change of uses at the Royal Hotel in late 2022. The CEO apologises for any misunderstanding caused by the response provided by officers at the ordinary council meeting in December 2023.
Thank you for reading out that correction. I will ask if we have a mover for the motion to then put questions or comments to Tim about the report. So can I have someone to move that report in the first instance? Thank you, Councillor Ebbels, and a seconder, Councillor Grigau. Councillor Ebbels, did you have any questions of Tim?
Not really questions, just as Tim mentioned, it does cover quite a long period, so there's a bit of movement both in and out, but so sometimes I think there's one item there that shows as it's been finalised, and it was also a new application, but it was been received and approved in that period of time. So that's why that occurs. But thank you, Tim, and your team, as always, for the diligent work that you do for our planning.
Thank you, Councillor Ebbels.
Councillor Grigau, did you have any questions or wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Councillors wishing to speak for or against the motion? No. Then I will put this to the vote that the planning permit activity report for February be received. All in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Brings us to item 15.2, the draft Queenscliff Traffic Management Strategy. And we've got Stuart, our Manager for Infrastructure and Environment, to talk to this report as well. Thank you.
Thank you again, Mayor and Councillors. The purpose of this report is to present the draft Queenscliff Traffic Management Strategy. And to seek Council's endorsement to commence the next phase of community consultation. The recommendation can be found on page 66 of the agenda, and the recommendation is that Council endorses the draft Queenscliff Traffic Management Strategy and places the draft Queenscliff Traffic Management Strategy on public exhibition, inviting submissions for a period of 28 days. I'll take the report as read.
Thank you, Stuart. The recommendation, as you've read out, is that we endorse the draft plan and place it on public exhibition. Do I have someone to move that?
I'd like to move it with one slight change, Mayor Tolhurst. The change being in point A, that Council receives the draft traffic management strategy and places the draft Queenscliff Traffic Management Strategy on public exhibition, inviting submissions for a period of 28 days. Thank you, and I'll speak to the motion as well.
Thank you, Councillor Ebbels. Someone to second that amended motion. Thank you, Councillor Minty, and then back to you, Councillor Ebbels, to speak to the motion.
Thank you. I don't think there's, to be honest, not a lot more than that I can add at this stage, but I know and thank David in regard to his question in the public questions about it. It is certainly still a draft form, and I think when you look through it obviously help us in where we spend or where we spend our own council money, but also potential grants that come up from whether it's TAC or DOT, that they're in line with our policy and our strategy. And I think Table 1 also shows some of the issues and opportunities, I guess, for funding as well. And there's a few little surprises in there, and a concerning one obviously was the speed. I found it interesting that people had enough time to get up speed in Stephen Street and in the school area and go above the speed limit in pretty much 1 or 2 blocks. So I know it's a 50k zone, so I think there's opportunities there for, sorry.
Just 40 k's around the
40 k's?
Yes. Yeah.
I don't use Stephen Street, all right? Yeah. Wasn't me. No, but yeah, so I think there's opportunities for identifying where we can actually spend money where it's needed. So thank you, Mayor Tolhurst.
Thank you, Councillor Ebbels. Councillor Minty, do you wish to speak to the motion? No. Do I have any opposition to the motion or others wishing to speak to it?
I'll speak to the motion. Thank you. It's only today that I just got another repeated call after some time from a sort of a resident saying the constant speeding in King Street down the Rut Run and Swan Bay is getting worse, and something this report hopefully can go through public consultation, and and they can actually see what some of the proposed measures to alleviate speeding in the Rat Run streets would be actually welcomed by them in a long time waiting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Grigau. Right of reply, Councillor Ebbels, if there's no further comments. All right, I will put the recommendation two-pointed it is to the vote, so all in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Stuart.
Thank you.
Our next item, still in the Heritage Planning and Infrastructure portfolio, is item 15.3, Point Lonsdale Lighthouse Reserve Project Update number 2. Thank you, Abby.
Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. The purpose of this report is to provide an update on the capital works projects Council are currently undertaking at the Point Lonsdale Lighthouse Reserve. The recommendation is that Council notes the update for February 2024. I'll take the report as read and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Abby. As Abby says, the recommendation is to note the update. Do I have someone to move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Grigau. And a seconder, Councillor Ebbels. Councillor Grigau, did you have any questions for Abby?
Just with regard to this, how much of the $1 million grant has been spent? How likely is the project the project will be completed on time? And 3, what steps are underway with DECA to either rescope or extend the time for the completion?
Okay, sorry, what was the first one?
Oh, I'll go for it. So, how much of the $1 million grant has been spent so far?
I believe it's in the range of about $50,000, $60,000.
Yes. And sort of question 2, so how likely will the project be completed on time?
It isn't a risk for the project at the moment, and as it states in the report, having to undertake a complex CHMP could significantly delay the project.
And what steps are underway with DECA to either rescope or extend the time frame for completion?
So DECA sit on the PCG for this project, so they're well aware of the need for the CHMP, and we have raised with them there may be a need to make some variations to the grant agreement.
Thank you.
Councillor Ebbels as the seconder.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks for the update, Abby. And I guess it's more about once we do know more information, just to ensure that our community is updated and also our website, that project website is kept up to date as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ebbels. Do other councillors wish to speak for or against the motion? Nope. Councillor Grigau, your right of reply.
No,
It's mostly questions, not a rigorous debate. With that, I will put this recommendation to the vote. So all in favour of noting the project update for the site to Feb 2024? Thank you, that's carried unanimously. Thank you, Abby. Item 16, we move into our governance and finance portfolio now. So 16.1 is a review of council events and grants policies. And I think we have our comms coordinator, McKenna, here to speak to these items. Thank you, McKenna.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Councillors and CEO. The purpose of this report is for Council to consider two revised Council policies as follows: CP022 Event Sponsorships revised and CP004 Community Grants revised. The recommendation is that Council adopts the following revised policies as presented: CP022 Event Sponsorships, CP004 Community Grants. I'll take the paper as read and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, McKenna. My recommendation is that we manage these items separately. So I'll put to Council consideration, if I can have I'll move a recommendation that Council adopt.
Separate the...
Pardon me, sorry. Thank you. I'll first move that we separate the items and deal with them separately. So I'll move that. If I can have a seconder in support of separating the items.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Grigau. All in favour? Thank you, so passed. So with that motion passed and the items now distinctly on the table, I have no questions for McKenna, but perhaps Councillor Grigau as our seconder. No, are there other questions for McKenna? No. That's great. Then in treating the items independently, do I have someone to put a motion to the vote?
Yep.
Yep. I have an alternate motion to put in addressing item 1 of now our two items, and that is consideration of CP004 community grants. I move that A, in adopting them, but with the following changes. So A, in the eligible section of the document, add a line to the effect that political organisations are ineligible to apply. And B, that Council communicates the revised process prescribed in the policy throughout the year to its community, noting a move to just one round of grants. Do I have a seconder for that alternate motion? Thank you, Councillor Minty. I need to speak no further. Councillor Minty, I don't know if you need to speak to those changes or suggestions. I'll put that to the vote. All in favour of the alternate motion prescribing two changes but adoption? Thank you, that is carried unanimously, which brings us to dealing with CP022, event sponsorship. Here I also have an alternate motion that proposes A, and I wish to move this. A removes reference to major events throughout the doc where it's inconsistent. B, commits Council to notifying the community annually what the available funding pool is. C, adds to section 5.1, eligible applicants, a line about religious organisations' eligibility mirroring that of CP 004. D, adds to section 5.2, ineligible applicants, political organisations. E, offers to provide feedback to unsuccessful applicants if sought. And F, commits council to communicating with its community the changes to the policy and a move to 1 year, 1 round per year. Do I have someone to second that slightly more lengthy alternate motion? Thank you, Councillor Minty. Is there any discussion wish to be had on those proposals? No, then I'll simply put that to the vote. All in favour? Thank you, that's carried unanimously. So we now have determinations for our 2 council events and council grant policies, or the 2 policies before us. Thank you, McKenna.
Excellent, thank you.
Item 16.2 is revised governance rules. So we now welcome Jenny Walker, HR and Governance Coordinator, to talk through this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Councillors. I appreciate you have a very heavy agenda tonight, so I will simply say that the purpose of this report is to present revised draft governance rules for council consideration. I'll take the report as read and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Jenny. So the recommendation is that they be adopted as presented. Do I have someone to move that motion? Councillor Minty. Thank you. Do I have a seconder? No, I'm happy to second that motion. Councillor Minty, any questions or comments in speaking to the motion?
Just to comment that this has probably been it has been a long time coming. The governance rules needed a major look at. I think the office has done a terrific job getting it to where it is. I know we've had more than 3 or 4 meetings just to tease it all out, because we've got to modernise some of this, what we do and how we do it. But I'd like to thank the officers involved. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Minty. I also wish to speak to the motion, and as per what was noted in putting these out for consultation in December, councillors did initially call for a review to address 2 key areas of the governance rules, and that was public questions and petitions, noting community engagement with those 2 particular functions of council had changed in the year, and we wanted to examine how the governance rules could become or prescribe a more open, easy to use process for all of our community and give more opportunity to hear from them in this forum. But it also provided, as any policy review does, an opportunity to fulfil the Local Government Act principles around good governance, and that is around continuous improvement. So I'm very supportive of the document before us that bit off more or addresses more than what we initially wanted to have a look at, because I think making changes to policies and rules is not just about looking backwards at what has happened, but it's about looking forward to future-proof or to look at the potential scenarios you might be faced with in the future. So very supportive of the changes before us. Do I have a councillor wishing to speak against or for the motion further?
I'd actually like to put an alternative recommendation to this motion. Thank you. I'd like to put this motion to be deferred and sent the governance rules back out to the community for community consultation for another 30 days. Because I feel that when we posted out during the Christmas period, the community actually didn't, had enough chance or opportunity to fully understand it, to send in their comments. We only got 1 reply, and it comes down to that time of January that it's very much time for family and rest and relaxation for the hard year that's every year that ends after Christmas. The January is traditionally a time for people to come down here and relax, not to worry about council motions and governance rules and stuff, and just realise these governance rules are not for councillors, it's for the community. It's the community rules and how we run this council. So I think it's very important that we have a broader, better engagement with our community to ensure that, you know, they understand what the implications of passing these rules are.
Thank you, Councillor Grigau. So the motion, alternative motion to be considered is sort of 2 points: A, deferral, and B, with further consultation for 30 days. Thank you. Do I have a seconder to that motion? Councillor Ebbels. And you will now proceed to invite Councillor Grigau to speak further to the motion.
I've already spoken to the motion, of the reason why I would like the community to have more time to review the governance rules for our community.
Thank you. And now Councillor Ebbels is the seconder. Did you wish to speak?
Yes, I did. Thank you, Mayor Tolhurst, and thank you, Councillor Grigau, for the alternate motion, which I'm happy to second. I think in our community, when we see one submission received, I think it tells us that we've missed that little window of opportunity. And I think on reflection, yes, that Christmas, New Year period was probably not a good time when we learned from that, but we don't want to change rules without actually having the opportunity for our community to have input. So that's why I'm seconding the motion.
Councillors further wishing to speak for or against the alternative motion put by Councillor Grigau? Oh, Councillor Minty, thank you.
Yes, thanks, Vic. I'd like to agree to the motion also. That, it seems like if that's all the responses we've really been able to tease out of our community, I think it's important that we give them an opportunity to, again, have a go at it and welcome any feedback from our community anytime.
Thank you, Councillor Minty. Any further debate before I put this alternative motion to the vote? Nope. All in favour? Thank you. All opposed? And the alternative motion is carried.
Just for clarification, Mayor, are you wishing to put out the amended, as presented to this council tonight, for a further 30 days, and would you like that to commence tomorrow, just for the purposes of the resolution?
That's a question
Yes.
for the
Yes, thank you.
councillor. Yep.
Yes, thank you.
And so then it potentially could come possibly to the April meeting.
Yes. Yeah, because that gives us time for to take on the review. Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Me. Thank you, Jenny. We've still got you here, which means we're at item 16.3, review of no, we've done that, sorry. 16.4, I apologise.
No, sorry. Mayor, it is 16.3.
Sorry, review of council governance policies. And I'll leave it with you to talk to this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this report is to provide council with 2 draft revised policies, CP 021, which is the election caretaker period, which is obviously relevant for this year where we have an election in October, and CP 053, CEO employment and remuneration. And I will take the report as read and will answer any questions.
Thank you, Jenny. Do I have someone to move the recommendation before us? Councillor Grigau. Thank you. And a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Minty. Councillor Grigau, any questions for Jenny or comments on the motion?
No, I reserve my right.
Thank you, Councillor Minty. No questions or debate from the councillor group? All right.
Computer just packed it up with her. No, no, it's fine. It's all right. No, I'm quite happy with these 2 policies to proceed as is. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I will put the recommendation that council adopt the 2 policies as presented, CP 021 and CP 053, to the vote. So all in favour? Thank you. That is carried unanimously. Thank you, Jenny. We are now at item 16.5, the 2023 to 2024 quarterly financial report. I've missed the annual plan, have I? That's what you get with a big agenda, don't you? Point 4, thank you. Pardon me. 16.4, second quarter implementation update for the annual plan 2023 to 2024. Our presenting officer is the CEO, so I'll let you speak to this report, Martin. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And through you, I really just take you to the recommendation. It's a report format that you're all familiar with, and it's the update for the second quarter of the year. So I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you. To put this on the table then, can I have a mover for the recommendation, and that is around noting the quarterly report update? Thank you, Councillor Grigau. And a seconder? Councillor Ebbels, thank you. Councillor Grigau, over to you for questions if you have them.
No, can't see. I've got my short reading glasses on. Steve isn't here. Yes, so
Take it on notice.
take it on notice. Yeah, just a short update regarding the disability action plan. What can we do? Yes, what can we do? There's the group needs to gather and stuff. What extra help can we do for the group to actually gather? So we can not hurry them along, but give them a little bit of extra resources so they can report back at a little bit more timely fashion, because that action plan is sitting there for nearly 20 years and we'd like to sort of deliver it for them.
Yeah, thank you, and through you, Mayor. What I might do, Councillor Grigau, is just make that offer to the group to see what further support that they can take. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor. Is that the conclusion of your questions? Thank you, Councillor Grigau. Councillor Ebbels, questions from you? Questions from other councillors on the report or the update? No, I might just ask in Portfolio 3, Local Economy, there was an action under the action finalised tourist park operation model mentioned that some new management arrangements were trialled over the summer. I wonder if you could just detail some of these, please, and the outcomes at a high level.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. So there were two things that we did that were different to previous years. One was that we installed caretakers at Royal Park for a longer period of time, and so we started prior to Christmas and went through to, we're still there, then they'll go through past Easter. And we've found that continuity has actually improved the way Royal Park has been managed this summer. The second was around Queenscliff, where we rotated the staff, and we had not so much a caretaker, but Abby, do you want to explain what you did with yeah.
If you're happy to approach the mic, that would be great. Thank you, Abby.
So at the Queenscliff, the Rec Reserve and at Victoria Park, we employed someone to be on call and be on premises overnight, just for any emergencies that might have arisen. And that person also too conducted a later evening clean of all the amenities. And we've been provided with great feedback around that and how that's worked really well. And it just helped with our regular staff being able to get a bit of a break over peak season.
Thank you very much. Are further questions or comment on this item? Otherwise, I will put it. Oh, pardon me, Councillor Ebbels.
Just one comment, and maybe you can pass on, Mr. CEO. Over January, I did have a coffee with the president of the Golightly Park Users Association. I think they're
Residents Association.
Golightly Park Residents Association.
Yes.
But they wanted to make sure feedback got back to council about how impressed they were and thankful for the caretakers who were looking after Royal Park and Golightly, and they were ecstatic and very happy campers.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Edwards. We'll pass that on and we'll try and secure them again for next season.
Thank you very much. With that, I'll put the recommendation to the vote. All in favour of noting the annual plan 2023-2024 update for the period 1 October to 31 December 2023. By show of hands, please. All in favour of that? It was a long way around in reading the recommendation. Thank you. I saw all hands, so we have a unanimous carriage there of that item. Now I think I'm where I need to be. So Gihan, you've been warned. Item 16.5, still in governance and finance. This is the 2023 to 2024 quarterly financial report at 31 December 23.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, councillors. I'll take the report as having been read and we'll add a very short comment. If you look at the Q2 financial report, it highlights an increasing trend in recurring operating expenses, and which is primarily due to increase in cost associated with providing municipal building survey services. So the trend that we observe in the recurring expenses will be scrutinized in very detail during the 24-25 budget process to determine what the current trend signifies in terms of the financial sustainability of the council. The recommendation is on page 120 and 121, councillors.
Thank you very much, Gihan. So the report, the recommendation is 5-pointed, noting, and that is that Council note the quarterly report to 31 December 23, notes the governance and management checklist progress update. 3, notes the update against the sustainable capacity, service performance and financial performance indicators. 4, notes the statement by the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer, as required under section 97.3 of the Local Government Act 2020 is one of the opinion a revised budget is not required. And 5, approves the allocation of $30,000 from accumulated cash surplus to the Hesse Street Streetscape project. Do I have someone to move that recommendation as presented? Thank you, Councillor Grigau, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Ebbles. Are there questions for Gihan?
Yeah, just question regarding not requiring a revised budget. I have deep concerns that the cost blowout that we've experienced about this staff cost, of a replacement staff cost for the building surveyor. And it's like, like the staff costs, is one of the largest portions of our budget, and saying then, I think, it's going to, that cost is more than quadrupled. So, how are we going to ensure that we can allocate that funds to continue that vital service that, it's a non-negotiable that, we have to provide and stuff. And so how can we not sort of make a small change to the budget to ensure that, we're on track?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I may be able to answer part of that question in terms of what we see in the presented quarterly financial report. One thing, the building survey cost is not being captured as an employee cost because what we had in place is a contract with the Surf Coast Shire Council, so they are not in a position to continue with that service, so it's not there in the employee cost. And based on the presented information, what we see for the current financial year, in fact, there's a 94,000 reduction in the employee cost because of some temporary staff vacancies, even after factoring in increase in the cost associated with the work cover premium.
Gihan, can you just add that one of the other reasons that we didn't think we needed to change the budget is we weren't slipping into deficit.
Sorry, yes. So if you look at the overall impact, what we see in terms of the accumulated cash surplus, so there's a reduction of 86,000. So still we have the opportunity even to manage that because we have another 6 more months to go. So it's not significant in terms of the current year budget. So, but again, as I mentioned, so it's a trend. So we had to really revisit and scrutinize that trend when we go through the 24-25 budget.
So we managing our budget by not hiring staff? Is it fulfilling positions?
Sometimes there's delays and there's vacancies, but we're at the moment we're either advertising or just about to appoint all staff positions. There's probably one outstanding that we need to fill, but no, we're not preventing.
Like, for example, the contract manager.
We've made an offer to a person, which we hope that they've accepted that offer. That's fantastic. So the outstanding position is some governance support for the organisation, which we will start to recruit to in the near future. But no, we're not certainly using it to make us look like we're saving money.
Thank you.
Councillor Ebbels, as the seconder, did you have any questions? Thank you.
Just one question, just under point 5 approves the allocation of 30,000 to the Hesse Streetscape project. I'm presuming that's the Hesse Street roundabout, and I was just wondering if we had an idea when that may be. We start the works.
I can answer the first part of the question, which is yes, it is. Stuart, are we also we've applied for a grant to cover some of the additional costs, and we're not sure when we will hear about that grant, or do we do May? Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Other questions for Gihan on the quarterly financial report? I might ask one, Gihan, and it's a bit of a clarifying question. So 1.6 million of the 3.4 generated from the Murray Road sale is now in general reserve, but we know it has very specific expenditure provisions based on CP 044 sale, exchange or transfer of council land. So I just wondered how money sitting in general reserve is, how the distinction is made for that money, if it's in a general pot of money, to ensure that it's used for the purposes it's intended as per the policy.
Through Madam Mayor, sorry, I think I might propose a correction, because the 3.5 million that we received, that entire amount we have put into a specific reserve, so we have not moved anything to our general reserve. The 1.6 million that we have in general reserve, those are the accumulated cash surplus that we have transferred over the years. So we have that entire 3.5 million in a specific reserve account. Of that, I think this year, in the current year budget, we are going to take 50,000 to do a plan for Go Lightly Park.
Yep. Okay, thank you for the clarification. If there are no further questions or commentary on the quarterly financial report, I will put the item to the vote, noting it's 5 points. So all in favour? Thank you, that's carried unanimously. Thank you, Gihan. I'll get that. Bending down is increasingly awkward. Thank you. That brings us really through our portfolio work. So we're at item 17, which is the signing and sealing of documents, under which there are no reports to consider. Item 18 is questions without notice, and 18.1 is questions without notice status update, and there are no questions without notice outstanding. 18.2 is questions without notice, so I now call for questions without notice from the councillor group. Councillor Grigau?
Yes, thank you. In early August last year, Council advised a community member and other councillors that Council had applied for a permit to rehabilitate the fragile root system and surviving understory plants in the Moona Woodlands to the west of the Ripview car park that has been vandalised. Council has advised that this area is protected under the Flora and Fauna Act. Can you please advise the progress of the rehabilitation works and when the permit was granted?
Through you, Mayor, I'll ask Stuart to respond to that. Yep.
Thank you. I have to take on notice the date at which the permit was granted. It was about 6 weeks ago. The permit has conditions on it that require council to have several documents approved prior to works commencing. We've since submitted those documents and met with representatives of DECA. They've indicated that while there's still some questions around the documents that we've submitted, that they are in the process of amending the permit to remove the prior to construction statements of those conditions. And as soon as we receive that amendment of the permit, we'll commence some rehabilitation work to the, I guess, the form jumps. Is that complete the question?
I think it would be fair to say, Stuart, that it takes as long to get a rehabilitation permit as it does to remove something, doesn't it?
Absolutely, it's been a long process, but so too will the rehabilitation process. So there's a long period of behaviour change and continual maintenance, and then eventually that establishment of the revegetation.
Thank you, Stuart. Further questions without notice? No. Thank you, councillors. Item 19 is list of council meetings, so the agenda details the date of a planning review meeting if required, our next ordinary meeting of council on Wednesday 27 March at 7 p.m, and the next councillor listening post on the 31st of March at the Queenscliff Market from 11 a.m. till 12 p.m. Item 20 brings us to closed session of meeting. So we'll now close the meeting to consider the confidential items. We have a recommendation that in accordance with sections 66(1) and 66(2)A of the Act, the meeting be closed for consideration of these items. 20.1 event sponsorship nominations 2023 second round. 20.1 bike park contract 2023-06. 20.3 Notice of Motion number 2024-589 CEO Performance and Remuneration Review November 2022 to November 23. 20.4 Notice of Motion number 2024-591 CEO Conflict of Interest Borough of Queenscliff Ordinary Meeting Agenda 28 February 2024, and item 20.5 the CEO Annual Performance Review. So the motion before us is to move into that closed section. Do I have someone to move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Minty. And a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Ebbels. All in favour? Thank you, carried unanimously. And with that, we will ask the gallery to leave for consideration of these items, and thank you very much for enduring a long meeting in the heat. Thank you for coming.